U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is in Egypt, his latest stop as part of ceasefire negotiations in the Middle East. This is his 9th visit to the region. He has met with Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi in the city of El Alamein. In a statement, the Egyptian president renewed calls to end the war in Gaza and warned that the conflict is at risk of spreading regionally in a way that is difficult to imagine. Mr. el-Sisi is meeting Mr. Blinken to discuss ways to move forward in negotiations on a ceasefire in Gaza. The U.S. diplomat is expected to visit Qatar next to meet with Qatari Emir Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani. Mr. Blinken is on a mission to urge Hamas to agree to the Israel-backed deal after his latest visit to Tel Aviv yesterday. But Hamas has pushed back, saying the U.S. diplomat's so-called bridging proposal raises ambiguities, adding that it only aligns with Mr. Netanyahu's demands. Hamas also slammed U.S. President Joe Biden for his misleading remarks on the group backing away from the deal after it insisted that any deal should be based on the plan outlined earlier in May. On the ground, Gaza's Civil Defense Agency says at least 10 people were killed and 15 others injured after an Israeli airstrike targeted a school compound in western Gaza City. Officials say Israeli forces struck the second floor of the Mustafa Hafiz school where thousands of Palestinians are sheltering. The IDF claims it utilized precise munitions to target Hamas militants operating a command and control center in that very area. Hamas has denied the allegation, saying it does not use schools and hospitals for military purposes. And more, Sarah Coates joins us live from Tel Aviv. Sarah, Egypt's president appearing to share similar concerns with Washington on a potential escalation of conflict within the region. Can the U.S. ally use its influence to convince Hamas to agree with this latest proposal?
Hello there, Wei Su. Well, Egypt certainly does have some influence over Hamas, but in saying that, it cannot actually lean on the group fully to force it into an agreement that it doesn't want, or an agreement that Hamas may see as slanted toward Israel. Now, we do need to remember that Hamas has also come out to say that the proposal that it has been presented is not the same proposal that it agreed to back in July. Now, there are, of course, some pretty big sticking points here, one of these being who should control the Philadelphia corridor. That is, of course, this very narrow strip of land that divides Egypt and Gaza, one of which the Israeli government, Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli Prime Minister, is adamant that Israel must maintain control over for security reasons. And then really this second major sticking point, the make or break sticking point that we've been talking about now for months and months, Wei Su, is the end to the war. Israel basically has been saying that it wants the freedom to get these hostages out and then to once again resume fighting in the Gaza Strip. But Hamas has been saying all along that if there is a ceasefire, it must be a full comprehensive ceasefire, and that is it. Israel cannot go back to fighting. So certainly these sticking points are just continuing to come up time and time again. And right now, a deal really seems elusive.
Sarah, as you mentioned, several sticking points there, but certainly for Prime Minister Netanyahu, domestic pressures are to bring back the hostages. Will his agreement to this latest US-backed deal backfire, given this pressure that he does face at home to bring those hostages back?
Well, we did hear from Benjamin Netanyahu yesterday when he met with the US Secretary of State Blinken here in Israel that he is committed to a deal. But we do need to remember that he has been accused by senior Israeli figures time and time again throughout this process of really handcuffing these negotiators, not giving them enough leeway to actually make a deal. Now, it was just the other day that when this negotiating team actually did go to Cairo, Benjamin Netanyahu didn't send a senior team. He sent a team of more low-level negotiators. That is why he said this next time around, this really make-or-break time, he would be sending his key negotiators. Now, this, of course, is causing a lot of concern here on the ground, understandably, among the family members of these hostages. They've been waiting more than 300 days to get their loved ones out of the Gaza Strip. But Benjamin Netanyahu has repeatedly been accused of blocking a deal. So it is going to be very interesting to see what happens here. And we do need to remember just the amount of pressure he's under, not just internationally from players like the United States, Egypt and, of course, Qatar, but also from the far right-wing element of his government, namely Itamar Ben-Gvir, the National Security Minister, who's repeatedly threatened to walk away from the coalition if Benjamin Netanyahu makes a deal with Hamas way soon.
Thanks, Sarah Coates reporting live with all those updates from Tel Aviv.